Hello and welcome to Mapping the Master Plan. I'm Tom Bott. I'm the town planner here in Kingston, Mass. And today we're filming from Studio A here at PAC TV. And today's show is a little different from our typical format. We're doing a recap of the pinup presentation we did a couple weeks ago at the design charrette that we did over the weekend at the Kingston Senior Center. I had the pleasure of spending the weekend with the team of folks, including Ted Brovitz, our lead consultant from Brovitz Community Planning, and Russ Preston from the Principal Group. Russ is, amongst other things, an architect and a thought leader in the School of Tactical Urbanism. We won't get into too much of that, but the idea is to create imagery that starts a conversation, to have some discussions about these things. Russ went to Notre Dame and then on to Miami, presumably to find a more exciting football team than they had at Notre Dame. And like me, Russ and I both share an interest in swimming, although he's apparently much better than I am because he got to swim for Notre Dame and I just get to swim. And with that, I'm going to turn the show over. I'm going to break a rule and give the mic away to somebody else and turn the show over to Russ, who's going to walk us through what we call the pinup presentation at the Senior Center with some of the slides that we produced, sort of imagining and reimagining Kingston. And with that, welcome Russ Preston. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Tom. Well, hi, Kingston. We're happy to be here tonight. Really excited to go through some of the highlights of our design charrette and really we looked at town-wide, from the sort of small interventions all the way down to some of the more transformational areas in town. So the first little drawing we're going to look at here is really at the intersection of Evergreen Street and Route 106. This is looking at a number of opportunities in Kingston where neighborhood centers can be created. Really looking at sort of leftover street space, pavement space that can be converted into new public parks, new civic spaces, and then to encourage those centers to actually redevelop into a walkable form to encourage what historically would have been a sort of corner store or general store, so that the folks within a 5-minute walk can feel comfortable kind of going down there again and getting their milk, getting their eggs, what they might need for their daily needs. So in this image, you see really what's now a large amount of asphalt being reclaimed for a new park, and then the redevelopment of what is now Cumberland Farms into a mixed-use, multi-story redevelopment project. Now, this could still incorporate gas pumps or not. So what we see here is this is really promoting a real sense of place in what is otherwise now sort of a more auto-oriented intersection.
And you used the term gas backward at the charrette to
so
put the buildings up front and the gas in the back to make it.
What you find most often is gas stations actually serve a great use. They have corner stores built into them now, but what they don't do is really prioritize pedestrians and people. So if a number of municipalities around the country are putting the corner store of the gas station up on the sidewalk, sometimes even with outdoor seating, and then the gas station component, the pumps behind. So there's a number of opportunities in Kingston where that little sort of reorientation of the way these gas stations are designed could really enhance the main street or neighborhood center aspects of the street.
And at 199.9, people will find the gas no matter where it's at.
Of course. So our next image here is really a ground level perspective. If you walk over to that intersection now, you'll see a very different image. But this is really looking at that new park with possibly a small bandstand, sort of an iconic little civic structure that could be a sort of neighborhood icon. And then some mixed-use buildings behind that might have outdoor seating, might have a variety of uses in it, as well as the gas station. So really, that's bringing together a real sense of place around these neighborhood centers. And we've looked at a number of them around Kingston that could occur and sort of be oriented at that scale. So then, shifting to the next drawing here. Where we're looking at sort of preservation side of the spectrum, Kingston's got a great farming heritage. It's got a lot of natural resources, the river, connecting the lake to the sea. Sort of a number of conversations we had during the planning process so far is around how can we both preserve more land, but also connect it so it's a better open space network. And some of the conversation was, well, how do we do that and still allow growth to occur? So in these sensitive areas, the sort of preservation and conservation areas, we're looking at redoing the compact development ordinance to allow for what are really farm hamlets, small collection of houses. Ideally, they're organized around some amenity, such as a civic space or a community farm. And the example we see here, which is up off School Street, today this lot could be developed into 11 houses, large lot type of suburban style homes. But looking at Kingston's, the demographics and the types of housing units that are missing, there's a need for cottages, smaller homes, townhouses, those types of homes. So by organizing this development project around a community farm, we can actually preserve a lot of land in the process. So this is a sensitive way to develop, conserve land, and in the process create more rural types of places that are still iconic and in the character of Kingston. So this is a great aspect of how Kingston can continue to grow, but also preserve the land at the same time.
And we call that a farm hamlet.
Yes, okay. The farm hamlet. And in this picture, you can see there's larger farm lots with sort of private growing behind. There's a central farm in the center. Even a communal barn, which could also be a place for weddings, could be a place for community meetings. Kind of a multiple functions. And then this is also conserves the existing house that's on this property. So shifting gears a little bit, from sort of down into the center of town, into downtown. When looking at other assets in Kingston, the fact that you have a commuter rail station and a commuter rail line still running straight through your downtown was really a huge underutilized asset. So looking at downtown, and a number of the conversations we had is, how do we bring more life to downtown? How do we get people to invest in downtown, to want to come there, want to be there, want to walk around there? And the strategy here is really about redoing the intersection of what is Evergreen and old Route 3, which is really making that intersection a lot of extra space there, a little bit of parking lot, and reclaiming that as a town common, really a Kingston common. And that would allow for that intersection, which we've heard is quite congested at times, to actually function as a roundabout. We call them a square about or a civic about. You kind of go, cars will be able to kind of round around that park very slowly in a fairly easy way. And that will help improve the traffic flow in downtown.
And slow cars down while still letting them proceed at the same pace.
Right, and that's key. Downtown, cars come through there quite quickly. So the key is going to be, getting cars to move slower, be friendly to pedestrians. The best functioning downtowns, when you're in a car and you can meet see eye to eye with the person trying to cross the street, that's when a really more comfortable, more pedestrian-friendly environment's created.
And if you put another commuter rail station in the town center area, that would also slow the trains down as well coming through town.
Yes, it would. So the next big idea, in addition to the town common, is really building a second Kingston downtown commuter rail station. And that platform, if you really start to think about downtown as a transit-oriented development opportunity, there's not very many MBTA stops I can think of that go right through a historic downtown. That hasn't really been realized. And this is a great opportunity for Kingston. Now, what you'll see in this image is, in addition to the new town green and the commuter rail station, is a number of red buildings. Those are new infill buildings, new development that could be built on parking lots or existing extra land that's already in downtown, so that we can have very sort of sensitive, sort of surgical improvements to downtown, which can bring in more housing. We want to have more living opportunities in downtown for more eyes on the street, and then additionally have a variety of different types of housing, apartments, rental units, smaller condos. And then the other things that we're seeing here is, a connection back to the ball fields running along the rail line is a really important connection from a sort of walkability standpoint. Right now, the parks, the park and the ball fields are really disconnected from downtown. And in reality, we could utilize a number of new sensitive infill housing around the parks to start to bring more life to those ball fields at night and in the mornings when they're not being used, as well as some of the area that right now could be, it's wet. There's an old stream that runs through downtown. That could be utilized as community gardens. And then we've done this in a way that also knits together a number of public parking lots. I think we've got around 700 spaces for new parking in this plan that could support the commuter rail as well as additional development in downtown. And then to the south, there's a great relationship between the library building and downtown that really hasn't been fully realized. And I think a nice addition with a new front porch on the library, sort of facing downtown would really enhance that, the sort of bookends of downtown. So you'll see here on the next drawing, this is looking up to that new town green. And there on the right-hand side of the image is some existing buildings that could be re-tenanted and have new life brought into them. And you see the new head house for the commuter rail station. And then towards the rear of the green, some new multi-story mixed-use development that would really anchor that new public park. And then, of course, looking at outdoor activities, sidewalk cafes, really enhancing the public life of downtown. And then even some small public art, to adorn this new park would really give a sense of place and a character to downtown that folks from Kingston could really love.
And we've heard over and over again that the town center area and the area south on 3A towards the Kingston-Plymouth line are some areas of interest to folks who have been to our various open houses and planning functions.
Yeah, we heard a lot of input on wanting to improve downtown, really wanting to enhance downtown in a way that doesn't lose the character that's there. So there's a lot of opportunity there, both with the rail line as well as sort of the infill potential.
And almost as if you anticipated that question, you've got a design for the south part of Kingston.
Yes. So if you look at this next drawing, this is really when you drive Route 3A now. Really, this is an automobile-oriented section of Kingston. You could be anywhere.
This is just after you pass Rocky Nook, sort of the Crescent Street area.
Yeah. So, and if you look historically, going up Route 3A out of Plymouth into Kingston, there was a series of sort of neighborhood centers. They're really well spaced. So here, like sort of at the intersection of Old Orchard Lane, sort of there's that block that's surrounded by Crescent Street. That's really, within 5 minutes in either direction is sort of a complete neighborhood. So what we did here is really looked at a number of these, some underutilized, some failing, some vacancies. There's a lot of buildings there as well as just parking lots that could add more value to Kingston, add more value to this neighborhood, and really create a much more inviting, pleasing drive along Route 3A, or unlikely today, but a walk along 3A. So what this does is look at retrofitting a number of these buildings and parking lots into a main street, into a neighborhood main street. So at the intersection of Main Street, Route 3A and Old Orchard, we've got possibly a new inn or bed and breakfast building, a number of mixed-use maybe apartment buildings, and then some live-work sort of smaller scale townhouses. And then looking at this plan, we've actually converted what is now the gas station into a neighborhood park. And then we went out and looked at that gas station again and realized it's actually a pretty active, pretty well-used gas station. So this might be another location where a gas backwards, when that, 10, 15 years when that building sort of uses it, runs out of its useful life, maybe it's redeveloped as a corner store. So I think the idea here that there's a 100% corner that has, ground floor retail, offices or homes above, and is really organized around an iconic little, neighborhood
and
square.
And 100% corner meaning?
100% corner is really, that's where if you say meet me in Main Street in Kingston on 3A, that's where you'd go. That's the most active corner. It's the most sort of iconic corner. Has the most sort of shops, energies around it, a lot of public life. And then what we've also done here is look, as you kind of go away from that 100% corner, the character of 3A would convert maybe to more residential, and then eventually back to sort of the auto-oriented road that it is today. And you'll see here the red buildings on this plan are infill buildings, new houses, new townhouses, and really looking at ways to knit those into the existing fabric of the neighborhood. And then in addition to that, how can we add new public spaces that are of a scale that's appropriate for this new walkable Main Street in Kingston. And then there's a number of traffic things we've done here. The two intersections at Crescent, being Route 3A, both to the east and west, we've redesigned to really slow traffic down, to make that difficult left turn or right turn off Crescent Street much easier. And then in the process, we can actually create new parks by redesigning those intersections. So in this next image, what you see is actually that 100% intersection at Old Orchard and Main Street. And on the left hand of the image could be some multi-story apartment or office buildings with retail on the ground floor. And then what's really important is actually necking down those intersections and providing really clear, safe crosswalks. So people know as they travel along Route 3A that they're entering a mixed-use area, an area where they have to pay attention for pedestrians. And you see these signs in New England, thickly settled. In New England, we have this great tradition of sort of slow down. You're entering a village or a neighborhood center. And then on the right-hand side of the image, we might see a new park or new neighborhood square, and maybe possibly an inn or mixed-use building. So really giving a great character to what is now really kind of an auto-oriented street in Kingston. So we've been talking a lot about sort of the transformational enhancement areas. There's a really big opportunity for Kingston around their current MBTA station. Right now you go out there, we picked up one of our colleagues from the train station the night before the charrette started, and we're just amazed at the sort of lack of anything around there. You really go there and it's a parking lot. And I think this is one of the biggest opportunities on the MBTA system for a transit-oriented development. I think what we've tried to do here is look at how both the MBTA land, the parking lot that currently serves the train station, can be redeveloped in a way that also connects well to its neighbors, and vice versa. So if the private property owners adjacent to the MBTA station, are developing first, or the MBTA is developing first, they should be coordinated and have a master plan that supports a large vision for this area. So what you see here is, the train station is in the center, sort of the yellow plaza. We envision this as sort of a station plaza, sort of a grand arrival into Kingston. And then what we've done is, on the right-hand side of the station is the MBTA land. And what we've centralized the parking into one large garage, multi-story garage, so that you can still have the commuter parking, but in addition to that, you can service new development. And then around that parking garage, we've got a number of flexible lots and blocks. So it could be office buildings, it could be mixed-use buildings, apartments, as well as homes, townhouses, and the like. And these are organized in a way so that when they're developed, they create streets with trees and parallel parking on the sides of the streets, and really traditional neighborhood fabric that you would see in the historic villages and areas around Kingston. And then what we've also done is created a new sort of triangular-shaped, kiss and ride square or park, so that really makes dropping off folks and picking up folks from the train much easier.
And the kiss and ride, you drive up, you kiss your passenger, they get on the train, and you take off.
Of course, yeah, and that could be a real nice entrance to Kingston, where otherwise today you get off the train and you're in a parking lot. In this future vision, you'd get off the train and be in a vibrant village center there at the station. And then to the left of the train station, on a number of privately held parcels, we've extended that neighborhood, that grid of blocks and streets, down to meet the existing wetlands and lakes, so that we actually create a full neighborhood with a variety of housing types, a variety of development potential, and then organized around a number of smaller parks and squares that will link to the larger regional network that might be developed in this parkway system and connect to larger parts of Kingston. And then this site also has some other interesting challenges with the windmills, and looking at that could just become playing fields, farming, a number of uses that are supportive of that sustainable power creation there. And then moving towards to the left of the drawing, this is the beginnings of a site plan for redeveloping the mall.
This is where on TV you'd say, but wait, there's more.
Yes,
right?
There's more. There's more here. And if we go to looking at the next image, which is a more detailed version of really redeveloping what is now the mall. And if you look across the country, there's a number of these malls that are looking at their design and their footprint and the amount of land they use, and really flipping themselves inside out and creating themselves into real walkable neighborhoods rather than sort of the conventional suburban mall. So what we've done here is you have Independence Mall Way on the left-hand side of this image, and with the existing parking lots now could be built on. So we could build a number of garages and then build mixed-use development around those garages as a phase one, and keeping the existing mall facility intact. And then future phases, 2, 3, 4 down the road, the mall could come down and be built with new neighborhood scale blocks with a variety of building types in it. I think there's a big opportunity here for commercial development adjacent, within a 10-minute walk of the MBTA train station, as well as more higher density housing that could support folks who want to maybe have one car and walk to the train in the morning, or have a more traditional walkable neighborhood lifestyle. And this site plan has been done in a way that several of the anchor tenants in the mall could remain, and you'll see those in the black buildings there. That's the Macy's building and the movie theater. And the movie theater is a great anchor, not just for a mall, but for a mixed-use neighborhood. And then what we've done is also try to connect a number of linear parks into this plan. Part of this property is in the water recharge area. So thinking sustainably about how water is purified, filtered, moved along the streets in a much more green and passive way, so that this is a real natural ecosystems created here to handle water. And then so on the south of the property, we've created a new park that could also be retention and treatment for a lot of that storm water. And then heading towards the highway, Route 3 on the bottom of the drawing, looking at redeveloping a number of those what are now sort of conventional car dealership lots into really more maybe campus or corporate institutional type development that really could take advantage of visibility and adjacency to the highway. So this is really a grand vision for what could redevelop the mall and provide Kingston with really a world-class transit-oriented development on the MBTA network.
And certainly designed to get people talking about the possibilities.
Yes, yes. So this next drawing is north on 3A, and it's another transformation area. When we've looked at the map of Kingston, there's a number. The mall, as well as this area on 3A, could really transform and better serve Kingston by bringing more mixed use, more tax revenue, and redevelop the land in a much more sustainable fashion than is currently there. So in this area, we've looked at creating another neighborhood center, off of 3A, which you see this sort of triangular shaped square about, which would really be an intersection that slows cars down as a point of arrival, saying you're entering someplace. And then this plan sensibly tries to redevelop a number of sort of post-industrial, industrial parcels, as well as keep a number of those industrial uses intact. And then you'll see here that kind of the streets are a little cranky because they're dealing with a lot of topography, but we could knit together a new neighborhood directly adjacent to jobs, directly adjacent to offices, and then a number of new open spaces and parks that can take advantage of this pretty unique topography that's in this part of town.
And one of the things that inspired that conversation was the fact that Stop and Shop has now bought Hannaford's, and are we going to have 2 grocery stores and if one of those grocery stores goes away, the anchor for this
Right.
shopping center goes away,
Right.
and that's not a good sign for a shopping center.
Right, right. So how do you future-proof those vacancies? So we're looking at at a master plan that can start to say if Hannaford's or one of those department stores, those stores goes away, what happens? And this is a way forward so that block by block, a new walkable neighborhood could emerge out of that area of town. So kind of switching gears a little bit, on the other end of the spectrum, sort of from the most transformational to the most sensitive area, if you look at the property which is currently the Sisters of the Divine Providence, this is really an ecologically sensitive area. So we really need to preserve this and keep this intact. So what we've done here is look at a number of scenarios. The first drawing you see here is what would just happen if business as usual. And this is a redevelopment of the entire property based under the current zoning, which we think would be a mistake. We really need to think about developing this land, if it does develop at all, in a much more compact and much more environmentally friendly way. So this next drawing shows how that same number of housing units could be developed around a town green and a much more village-centric pattern, as well as taking advantage of some prime farmland in the process and creating a new community garden, new community farm. And we think this is a much more sensitive and environmentally friendly way to preserve a key piece of Kingston's natural beauty.
Excellent. So with the 55 seconds we got left, Ted, we're going to give you the last word because you've been so vocal through this whole show. Great stuff out of the charrette. A tremendous project. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I think that the next step is really to take all the information we got from the community, the people that participate in the charrette, and really look at those different areas of conservation, development, and the infrastructure that's necessary to make things happen in the future. And as Russ has gone through, we've got a variety of different types of development, from large-scale redevelopment such as at the mall and new development down around the train station, TOD around the train station, but also corridor redevelopment along 3A, and then sort of taking neighborhood crossroads and making them more into centers. So, we need to think about what the scenarios are as far as those versus business as usual, what's allowed in the current zoning, and think about the changes that are necessary to make the preferred options happen. So that's really the next step in the master planning process, is to translate all this into a toolbox that the town can consider as far as policies and regulations and incentives to make the vision happen over the next 10 or 20 years.
Well, it's been a terrific show. To recap, a terrific weekend that we had in the Senior Center. Thanks to our friends at the Senior Center for hosting us. Thanks to Russ and Ted for being here today and talking about what we've got going on. There's plenty more stuff coming out of the master plan. We thank you guys for being here, and thanks for the fabulous work you've been doing.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.